Now on BBC Two, the behind-the-scenes story of the journalist who went from reporting the news to making it.
Sometimes in life you have challenges, you know, you can make a difference. You can take a stand that you might regret not having taken. Not often, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but why shouldn't I do this? Why shouldn't I contribute something? Instead of standing on the outside of life like a journalist and watching, why couldn't I make a difference for a while? So I said to myself that, difficult though it might be, if that call came in, I would accept the invitation.
The BBC correspondent Martin Bell is ready to be the surprise anti-sleaze candidate in the Tatton constituency of the former Conservative Minister Neil Hamilton. Mr Hamilton has been under a cloud over allegations that he took money in return for asking questions in Parliament, allegations which he hotly denies.
I believe, and the opinion polls reinforce this, that there is deep disquiet in the public at large about our standards of conduct in public life. And it's just a few, but it affects the reputation of the many. And it's in everybody's interest that we sort this out. And I think the British people want this.
I mean, to be honest, and I've never met Martin Bell, I'm sure he's a delightful man, but it's a flaming cheek. He's got, as far as I'm aware, absolutely nothing to do with Cheshire, and even less to do with Tatton.
When Mrs Hamilton said I had the flaming cheek to stand, first of all I realised I'd made my first tactical miscalculation by not bringing my flak jacket with me. Then I thought, well, I'm sorry, it's my democratic right to stand. I could stand for the Hebrides if I wanted to.
Well, I assumed that there was an indication that he was in the middle of a midlife crisis when he first put his hat in the ring. After all, he's retired twice from the BBC and resigned 3 times in the last 3 years, or some variant of that.
He was looking for something to do.
And he was looking for something else to do. And so I didn't regard his candidature as terribly serious in a political sense.
Do you accept that a man is innocent unless proved guilty?
Yes, of course I do.
So you accept that my husband is innocent?
I think there's a lot of...
Do you accept that my husband is innocent?
I'm not going to be facing an ambush here. Let's just see what comes out. I don't know. I don't know. I'm standing here because a lot of local people have asked me to stand here. And the impetus comes from local people, and let them just choose between us.
I thought it came from a Democrat.
I would just like to say then that you are prepared to give me the benefit of the doubt on the allegations that have been made against me.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm just not the kind of chap who comes up to a perfect stranger and says, "Sir, you are a liar and a scoundrel." I don't do that. So what I did, I treated it much as I might have done a Serbian roadblock. Look, there's trouble there. I will placate and conciliate and live to deal with it another day. Now afterwards I thought of all the smart things I should have said and how I should have made the distinction between what he was charged with but was not proven and the admitted wrongdoing out there. Now I failed to make that distinction, which is a political mistake, but I was then especially a political amateur.
Oh, I think we incontestably won round 1. He was put immediately on the back foot. It was very productive because it exposed the true nature of his campaign. He said one thing on the Heath, he did another in the campaign.
I don't want to hijack the whole press conference.
Well, you haven't done bad.
I had anticipated that we could set the ground rules for the election campaign in that encounter. I wanted to establish what it was he was going to accuse me of. He said he was going to accuse me of nothing. In fact, he spent the whole campaign accusing me of things that I had denied. So his whole campaign was a fraud.
He's not interested in the truth.
This is not between me and him, this is between him and the voters. This is an election about trust. What I want to do now is just introduce my daughter Melissa, who is at least temporarily, this is my whole staff. My daughter Melissa, who is at least my temporary press secretary, my old friend Colonel Bob Stewart.
I thought that he was up against so much. I mean, it started in the basement of the Longview on the Tuesday of the ambush on the Heath, with Dad and I, a phone, a piece of paper and a pen, and 3 weeks to go before May the 1st. This was such a shambolic campaign, none of the normal labels apply.
Okay, you can take all that, I can't deal with this, that's for you.
Look, to say it was looking unlikely is an understatement, it's looking impossible. We had very little idea what we were getting ourselves into.
You see, I haven't even got a typewriter here. got. It's just me and Melissa, and an ex-BBC producer, Dave.
We need professionals.
We're not sweating. I mean,
Perhaps a computer.
and it's all working.
I don't know. Or even a typewriter. I mean, it's all handwritten.
Well, you can get a mobile phone. There's a mobile phone shop in town.
Well, I'll send the other half of the campaign staff up to receive your fax.
I need an office. I need phone.
Do you ever think... Find me an office, find me an office. What I'm doing, because I don't have a proper campaign, it's just me and my daughter. I mean, and she's standing up by the fax machine, and I've got nothing. I'm tired. I'm tired already. Melissa, I need you to go and stand up by the fax. Something's coming through. Please.
For more than 100 years, and the drop-in centres model.
Right.
Why don't you change that last night? Should I? Do you want to write?
No, I can't. This has to be destroyed.
Okay, I see. Do you want that destroyed now?
Let me list your wrongdoings so that issues of this campaign are crystal clear. You accepted gifts, hospitality and payments in kind from Mr. Al-Fayed while acting on his behalf in Parliament and in dealings with ministers, thus breaking the rule that MPs should not be for sale.
Alistair Campbell did send you a fax, didn't he, to help you with a draft reply?
Yes, this is true. I think I was ill-advised at that stage in the campaign. I think that the Labour people, particularly, from whom this idea had come, wanted me to go on the attack as if this were a confrontational election, and so I let them help me with the drafting of that letter.
Yours sincerely, Martin Bell.
But the more I thought about it, the more it seemed to me that what Mr. Hamilton had admitted to on the record was really best dealt with not in an attack dog kind of way, but as if it were what I did. I quoted from the Army Act of 1955 because I've been a soldier. What it was conduct unbecoming, and people understand conduct unbecoming. So I shed the early advice, and I never talked to Alistair Campbell after that. Not that I wouldn't have done, he just never called me, and I just ran my own campaign in my own way.
How much help do you think he received in his campaign from other political parties?
Massive.
Well, he had hundreds of helpers here, many of them from outside the area. And he had spin doctors whose existence he acknowledged in his victory speech after the election result was announced. I think it's surprising that a candidate standing on a platform of truth should require spin doctors in order to manipulate it.
Since we've been on the air, Neil Hamilton has been adopted as Conservative candidate for Tatton. We're joined again from Tatton by our political correspondent, Nicholas Jones. Nick, remind us of how the meeting divided.
Well, there were 282 party members at this meeting, and 182 voted for Neil Hamilton for his re-selection. He failed to get the support of 100 of the members who were here, and 35 of them actually voted against Mr. Hamilton. The other 65 abstained. So you can see it was a resounding victory for Neil Hamilton, who's been safely re-selected as the candidate.
Doesn't sound resounding to me.
The mood of the meeting and the sentiments expressed.
As for Martin Bell himself, he's making it very clear this evening that he feels fired up now by the decision of this local party here tonight.
And Mr. Bell has gone as far as to say he thinks that he could actually win this seat and become the MP here for the next 3 or 4 years.
Thanks, mate.
Nicholas Jones in Tatton.
That's better. Day 2. Day 1 in the constituency.
I know Martin well enough.
It isn't easy.
Halfway through the afternoon.
It was never going to be easy. It's going to go the whole way, and I hope it's not going to get as nasty as I think it's going to get. It wasn't such a difficult decision. I did resign from the BBC in last November because after I came out of Bosnia, they really couldn't find anything for me. I'd worked 11 days in 7 months, and I don't like being paid for work I'm not doing. Off the record, have you had any special instructions? Lay off, watch it.
Well, sort of certain sort of BBC sort of feeling that we mustn't get too close.
Yeah, you're right. The BBC went into one of its sort of reflexive modes in which it denied that I had ever worked for it. You know, I was not allowed to be referred to as the former BBC reporter. The BBC was taken out of it, as if I'd never done anything for the BBC, and I was put in mind of those wonderful words of Sir Thomas Wyatt, they flee from me that sometime did me seek.
You crossed the line into politics. You could have crossed the line into public relations, but you've crossed the line from us as journalists.
I should feel for you, should I?
No. We should, as I said, there's that mental barrier between us that just suddenly emerges when you take a sort of action like you've taken. But I mean,
I regard you as my mate.
Well, that's exactly what we all regard everybody as our mates. But you asked what the official position is.
I think they wished I hadn't done it. I think they wished I would go away. I passed a memo circulated internally which said, "We cannot conceive of any circumstance under which Martin Bell may be interviewed." I think I was getting a bit uncomfortable for them, a bit too high profile, and I think they find it difficult if any of their reporters becomes too famous, I suppose. They find it awkward. It was also necessary for me to burn my bridges behind me. It was a signal to the people of Tatton that my broadcasting career was over, and now I was going to work for them.
This is my second day as a politician.
Is it? Yeah, why don't you stick to reporting? You're very good at that. Well, I mean, did you feel that you've been set up by the other parties?
No, I don't. I felt that there was a demand from inside the constituency or I wouldn't have come.
Do you have any fundamental beliefs?
Yes, I do. And
what are they?
I'm going to talk about the other issues after a nomination.
Such as?
I'm going to talk about education.
What do you know about education? What experience have you had?
Well, what about having two children?
Yes, but I mean, in terms of being a politician, what experience have you had? I mean, surely the electors of Tatton want a professional politician representing their interests.
I think there's an upside and a downside.
What about late payment of debt? What about uniform business rates? And what about the impact of Europe? Social chapter, minimum wage. Who's going to discuss these with us?
Martin Bell took his campaign to the streets of Wilmslow this morning with a walkabout in the town centre, giving the voters the chance to take him to task.
Surely the electors of Tatton want a professional politician representing their interests.
I'm going to complain to the BBC now. Is that the 1 o'clock news? This is Martin Bell. Kathy, this is a call I never thought I was going to make. You're bloody right it is. I do my first walkabout in Wilmslow. I have 25 in favour, I have 3 against, and you give me just one of the 3 against. What kind of journalism is that? How can you defend it? Okay, will you send my protests to the non-journalist involved? I'm going to denounce you in 45 minutes. I really am. I'm resigning from the BBC, and if that's the BBC journalism, well, them, you know. Bastards. They tell them to watch it. But obviously, I mean, I'm fundamentally in favour of giving you the first interview because you have the biggest audience. But honestly, if I feel that the BBC is bending over so far backwards that they're damaging me, I won't. So it's up to the corporation I used to belong to.
That's absolutely right. Oh, bullshit. That was crap.
Yeah, but I don't want to. It's not my job to be rattled, is it? It became quite obvious to me in these past days, especially now we're in for the long haul, that I couldn't remain even theoretically and technically a BBC reporter. It was easier for them and easier for me. I'm not going back. I expect to be the next Member of Parliament for this constituency, so I have necessarily burned my bridges behind me. They took this quite well. In fact, I would say with a certain degree of relief it's been done. I'm feeling a bit lonely up here at the moment. I'm going to see the Labour Party this evening, and I think that's all right, but I'm absolutely desperate to get a professional organisation in place. Advise me how I mean, I need professional organisers. I'm hoping by tomorrow to have a prominent local Tory on board. But it's difficult for them. And I've got to have a Tory. Although lots of Tories are pledging their support, I need somebody prominent.
1 hour.
Thank you very much indeed, Penny. I appreciate it. Well, it's hard work and it's a steep learning curve, but I'm going to get there. Thanks, Penny. Thanks. Bye.
You did get a briefing from the Guardian journalist. How helpful was that?
It was helpful in that if it had come to a debate, I felt it was useful to, and there were follow-up questions, and we'd really gone into the nitty-gritty of it. After all, Mr. Hamilton was there. He's the leading witness. It was necessary that if it came to a debate, I should have been equally well informed. So I had to have this knowledge at the back of my mind.
And we know that he was assisted by Guardian and Observer journalists throughout his campaign. So not only was his candidature procured ultimately by the Labour Party, but it was also very much controlled by the Guardian newspaper, which has been responsible for conducting the vendetta against me. So the idea that Martin Bell was in any way an independent candidate is an obvious nonsense.
The meeting tonight of the Tatton constituency Labour Party overwhelmingly endorsed the withdrawal of John Kelly as the Labour candidate on the condition that the Liberal Democrats confirm their intention to support the candidature of Martin Bell.
So good result, huh?
Good result.
Wonderful, well done.
What do you reckon to that?
Prescott was brilliant in that.
Oh, he was amazing.
He's a star. You know, we've been spinning away. We're supposed to be reporters, we spent the entire time spinning.
The speech went really well.
Great.
He's becoming, like you said...
You're getting better, you're getting better.
Every minute you
I need minding. I need people who can get me in and out of cars and so on.
Yes, not that way, Martin, you're going the wrong way. Gently.
We got completely lost on the way, actually.
I just got in from my Labour Party meeting, which seems to have gone well. Thank you, I think I'm going to need it. This man is a Rottweiler. I'm personally motivated to get this blasted out. Isn't that a beautiful picture?
Oh,
yes.
Scary.
Well, I mean, you've got to bring her into the campaign now,
I
because
I'm just trying.
there's a certain lady seems to be running the other campaign.
I think it's a rather nice contrast, don't you?
Hmm? Yes.
Oh, this is deliberate.
Yeah.
She's actually going to be my escort. She's going to be my Mrs. Hamilton to the campaign. Not a difficult act to emulate, Melissa. No.
I'm perfectly confident that the majority of the Tatton Association, they know Neil to be an honest, honourable person. They've worked with both of us for 15 years. They do not recognise, they simply do not recognise the monster that has been portrayed by sections of the media. They know that it's a travesty of the truth. And they're not going to jack in the towel now because I understand he lives in Hampstead, some Hampstead-living BBC journalist. And frankly, if they were going to choose a united anti-sleaze candidate, the last person they should have chosen is somebody from the media who lives in London.
Well, his wife's an attack dog.
Yeah, attack bitch. I don't call her a bitch. Where is John Underwood?
I reminded the Labour Party today that we needed him, and on his way is Alan Olive. Do you know? He's on his way.
Yeah, he's bringing the maps and things like that.
He's the Labour Party nuts and bolts man.
Yeah,
very much. Yes. From where? Yeah.
The region, Northwest Regional.
Should we meet him straight in the office, or should we?
Yeah, I think we could all go over to the office and do this. We've got a great back room that's private, which is where we're all going to meet always.
He's meant to be very good at the nuts and bolts, and just what we need.
Yeah. And he's bringing someone else with him.
Peter, we'd better switch off at this point. It's going to get jealous.
What kind of help did you receive from the political parties throughout your campaign?
I received some advice. Because they had both stood down their candidates, they each had people in my headquarters whose job was liaison with those parties and with their voters as individuals in the constituency. And they gave me professional advice, otherwise it was a totally amateur campaign.
Bill, please can bleep me with Martin's contact number so I can ring him. Paddy, I don't know.
I don't know.
He used to be a Marine.
Better look in the volunteers book.
You're in your trench, we're in our trench, and they're in theirs. Yeah. Neither side knows what the other side's doing until afterwards.
I had input from all three parties, but the input from the Conservatives had to be done rather more tactfully and at times almost secretly. I had to have secret meetings with dissident Conservatives.
The people vandalising Neil Hamilton's posters are probably embarrassed Conservatives.
why should it be such a secret whether or not you've got a girlfriend?
Okay.
You're not being, no one's in the news of the world suggesting you shouldn't have one, or that there's some wrongdoing in having one.
If you give me a shorter speech, I'll give you a quicker answer. There's a lot of stuff out there. There were reporters combing the countryside, but please come and talk to me.
Well, that's what I'm doing. That is what I'm doing. Okay. You said beat up on me. Well, I don't have to beat up on you.
Beat up on me on the financial issues. The relationship was disastrous, and as is also on the record, there was a fundamental disagreement between us about the amount of time I spent with my children. I paid a bribe to somebody in Bosnia not to kill me. Well, actually, I might have done, you know. But if so, I'd have had to come up with a receipt. This is the kind of crap I'm dealing with. Absolute crap. Yeah. Okay? I have no idea. All I know is that there are unknown people scouring the country. I mean, it may be they think they can save the election by discrediting me. I'm just running my campaign here. But there's a major smear campaign going on. Major smear campaign. Which I shall learn to live with. And I'm going to stay the course, and I'm not going to be intimidated by it. Okay? Thanks, Maurice. Bless you. Unbelievable. I'm now supposed to have paid children in Northern Ireland to have thrown stones at the military. And I was then withdrawn by the BBC. Can you believe this? This is the biggest smear campaign coming on. Come on, chaps. Drafting a statement denouncing the smear campaign against me.
You're pretty angry about this, aren't you, Martin?
Very pissed off. I'm going to get these bastards. This is going to be the sleaze issue that plays against them. These people, whoever they are, have not gone for my politics, which are truly independent and non-party. They have not gone for my honesty because they will find no wrongdoing in my financial records, and they know that. Instead, they have gone for my private life. I urge these cowards and sleaze merchants to desist, and I believe that we shall draw strength from the shady maneuverings of shady people.
What are we talking about here? Politicians or journalists? I don't know what to do with it unless I know about it.
Today, someone in my Golders greenhouse went through our rubbish. My sister has had to be saved on her American campus by the security guards against people trying to get information. This is enough to warrant this sort of statement. This is silly and unfair.
Who do you think's behind it?
We can only speculate. You can only speculate.
Well, that has absolutely nothing to do with
We had 24 hours of bad press coverage from the media. Well, we've had 2.5 years of it. I mean, poor Martin Bell.
Yeah, I mean, I never at any stage mentioned his personal life, and that wouldn't have been my style. I wanted to fight this campaign on the issues. It was Bell who personalised this campaign against me. We never responded in kind, although we could have done.
It's been an extraordinary week. I really did think when I started I was in for a 48-hour career in politics. I couldn't believe that Neil Hamilton would not stand down. I know the Conservatives, and I'm not pro or anti-Conservative, but they're good at holding on to what they've got. And why should they give away one of their safest seats? Well, it looks as if they're going to, and now I'm stuck with it, and I'm going to go through with it, and sometimes, increasingly, I'm enjoying it. And now, this Sunday morning, I discover that I have the endorsement not only of 2 parties, but of both my ex-wives. I am absolutely delighted. I think we need to get this place swept for bugs because we don't know what happened before we came in here.
Honesty, integrity and trust. Both Martin Bell.
Over a bit.
It's in St Matthew's Gospel, as I'm sure you'll realise, because you're all God-fearing types, I can see that. A whited sepulchre is an expression which means hypocrisy, really.
because it's white on the outside but unclean on the inside. Find something from the Bible and tell me what it says.
Bible 28:3.
It's about not taking bribes, yes. My daughter, Melissa, said, what's Exodus? You know what Exodus is, yes.
I'm putting the tap back into Tatton. We want to know what you're doing for today's youth. There's money ready transformer. Putting the tap back into Tatton. Hello. There's money ready transformer. Putting the tap back into Tatton. Thank you. Hi, honey, and you wouldn't take any of this, would you? No, we know you wouldn't take any of that. You're good on the battlefield out here as well. We're gonna put up a good fight, honey. We're gonna see what war's really like, honey.
With the United Nations Sleaze Keeping Force, but we shall be patrolling throughout the night to make sure, you know, everything stays calm.
Oh, it was the dirtiest campaign that I can recall in over 30 years of active politics. Our posters were torn down throughout the constituency by organised squads who must have had ladders and crowbars. Our constituency headquarters campaign sign was levered away from the wall. My posters were defaced by spray paint with the pound signs over my name. Bell disseminated defamatory propaganda about me throughout the constituency. He behaved in a dirty and underhand way.
Well, I mean, to be lectured about dishonesty and corruption by Neil Hamilton, what can I say? I mean, he's entitled to say what he says. It was as high ground a campaign as I could do. The posters, the slogans emphasised trust, honesty and conduct becoming. Now, if he finds that threatening, what does that tell you about Neil Hamilton?
What does the letter say, Mr. Hamilton?
Well, it's a private letter. I don't believe in publishing them until the recipient has seen them.
So what does it say?
Delivered another letter.
You want to talk to you?
Right,
yeah, that's right. What do they say?
They're just like solicitors.
Things are going very badly for Martin. Hamilton is hitting him with his lawyers, so all of the energy of the campaign is being taken up by spending hours and hours and hours in the back room of the new campaign headquarters, worrying about the lawyers, worrying about threats of legal action from Hamilton. And he's winning the mind game. Hamilton is winning, Martin and the rest of them are demoralised. It's absolutely terrible. Martin is my champion. Martin stands for everything that I believe in life. Decency, fair play, integrity. And he's losing. At the moment he's losing. If things don't change, then Martin Bell will lose and Neil Hamilton will win.
Oh, I'm tired of being threatened. But it'll pass. It'll pass. As I said before, I've been threatened by some heavy-duty, world-class international villains, and Mr. Hamilton, whatever he is, does not belong in that league. And I just hope when this is over, he'll invite his lawyers to spend more time with their families, so I can get on with being an MP without distraction.
He claims that you basically fought him or tried to intimidate him by a fax machine and a lawyer. How do you respond to that?
Well, that's ridiculous. The only reason that I kept sending him letters was because he refused to answer. So I had to keep sending reminders. And as he was making allegations about me which were gravely damaging and untrue, of course, I wanted to pin him down. And when he refused to answer my letters, I thought we'd try a solicitor's letter and see if that worked.
It was done to try and blow me out of the water. But it meant that I had to go back and look at my campaign literature and withdraw it, actually, to see if it were defamatory. And it put us on hold at a vital stage in the campaign when we were just getting things going. I think that was the low point. This is about halfway, and I think things are looking a lot better. Our legal wobbles have gone away. We are defying his legal threats. And we're hoping now he's going to turn to taking his campaign to the constituency rather than in the courts. The poll is good, of course, but pin not thy faith in polls. The only poll that matters is on the 1st of May. What is good is the sense of something happening out there in the constituency. I wouldn't, I may be wrong, but it could be a sort of political revolution going on in which people are really involved, and a lot of Tories coming over who'll vote Conservative again at the next election, but in this one their priority is to get Mr. Hamilton out. So that's looking good. The organisation is up and running. The literature's getting out for the first time smoothly. The posters are going up. What I'm waiting to see is how Mr. Hamilton wants to play it for the remaining 10 days.
Reporters, Paramount Movies have phoned up. They're interested, perhaps, in making a film. So we're just wondering who will play who. Bernard Manning could play Neil Hamilton. As to Martin Bell, Colin Firth, Ranulph Fiennes, anyone in a white suit.
I don't want too many more street walkabouts. He seems to be meeting the same shoppers on successive days and they're getting a trifle bored with him.
So this is turned into...
Yeah,
nice to see you too.
I'm the real cop, I suppose, or was until the last few years.
Oh yeah?
Nice to see you.
Yeah, well, I'm a real actor, actually.
I know that. Yeah, but it's this sort of juxtaposition of a lovely Cheshire town and...
I know, a couple of has-been cops.
Day before polling, Martin.
Well, alone on the burning deck. I shouldn't be canvassing when there's nobody here. I guess they'll come. I think it's all right. I don't know. I think it's 2,000 votes either way. I just don't know which way. But either we win or we win. I mean, we win on the vote, and I become the first independent MP for 60 years. Or we narrowly lose, but with such a large vote that I think we can claim to have made a difference here. It would be easier for me to go back to private life, but I would prefer to win. I prefer to win by more than 2,000 votes.
How's it going? Very well, about 80% response rate, 10% no and 10% Hamilton. Now obviously voting Hamilton's like sinning, everyone does it, no one admits to it, but who knows, it's very good.
I had David Soul, the singer, with me, who's a friend of mine, and it was like walking down that street, it was like a victory parade.
Well, we have voted for Martin.
Yeah, great. We're just making sure that everybody voted that can vote.
We're just trying to...
Whole communities turned to us. It was, to me, something extraordinary in British politics.
Nice to meet you. Yes, I know you are, Martin. My son knows you very well, actually. He's spoken to you in Croatia when you was a war correspondent.
Was he a soldier?
He was in the Croatian army.
Good heavens.
If people are telling the truth, we're talking landslide.
Throughout the United Kingdom, we're in Tatton, where Neil Hamilton and Martin Bell have been slugging it out.
But we'll know tonight. We'll know tonight whether he's done it or not. But I mean, it's going to be so close. But we might do it, Catherine Bell. And so we're just getting ready to go to the count. We've been out all day. We walked for hours. Your dad's a little tired.
Martin Bell came in saying, I don't know if I'm going to win, I'm waiting to see like everybody else. But certainly the mood seems to be that things are starting to move Martin Bell's way, and some of the Tory campaign team, we've seen Neil Hamilton's people, appear depressed.
The number of votes recorded for each candidate at the election is as follows. Martin Bell... Independent. 29,300. Mostyn Neil Hamilton,
Conservative.
18,000. $18,277 votes.
What you have accomplished here has been to me some kind of a political miracle. I shall be and shall remain independent. I shall take no party whip. I shall serve for one term only. I am deeply grateful to all of you, and may I just repeat for the last time a couple of lines from G.K. Chesterton that I used during the campaign. Smile at us, pay us, pass us, but do not quite forget that we are the people of England, and we have not spoken yet. You have spoken tonight magnificently, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, I was very disappointed, naturally, that such a large number of my constituents weren't prepared to give me the benefit of the doubt which English law gives to any accused person, that he should be regarded as innocent unless proven guilty. I had not been proven guilty. I believe that Sir Gordon Downey's report will exonerate me of these grave charges of corruption, and consequently my defeat has been procured by fraud.
You don't feel he was vindicated by the overwhelmingly large vote he received?
No, he certainly wasn't vindicated by the result. I mean, it's the electorate that has suffered a confidence trick.
Great silence for the honourable member for Tatton!
Friends, colleagues, what can I say? I'm absolutely overwhelmed. We never had a machine, but we had a contraption.
I'm going to do my best, but I'm not a saint and I'm not a genius. I'm just a man whom people happen to trust. So all I can say is I'm going to work as hard as I can and do as well as I can, and is it ungracious to say I think I've got an easy act to follow? I think I've got an easy act to follow.
Well, he's completely wrecked my political career,
Put
of
us
course.
both on the dole.
And as a result of that, it's obviously going to be difficult for me to get back to a normal lifestyle. And I've spent my whole life directed to membership for the House of Commons. I've been in politics for 30 years, in one shape or form. I've been in the House of Commons for 14 of those years. At the age of 48, it isn't easy to make a new career for yourself. It isn't possible for me to go back to the bar because the profession has changed so much in the last 15 or 20 years. And in any event, I can't afford the time to build up a practice because I need my earning power needs to get going now.
I don't accept that I ruined their lives. I think they did it to themselves, and I'm sorry for them because it is a kind of a tragedy.
Oh, just before we go, I have to give you your fees.
I swear by Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, her heirs and successors according to law, so help me God.
The qualities you need to survive in war zones are very much similar to those you need to survive in the sort of bruising political campaign that I've been through. You need steadiness under fire and a sense of right and wrong, and you need to care about people and not be cynical and tell the truth in journalism and in politics. And I'm about to find out if it's possible to have a political career and tell the truth. Come back to me in 6 months or 12 and I'll tell you.
Martin Bell,
Independent.
29,354 votes.
deep beneath these